Today, by popular demand, cannoli. Stay tuned. Welcome to Tina Cooks More Italian. I'm Tina Piermarini. We're going to start out with our cannoli shells. Now this is not a pan, this is my cannoli pipes. And these I'll show how they work later on, just in case you're wondering what they are on my counter. Okay, we're going to start out with our shells. We have 2 tablespoons of butter. We need a tablespoon of sugar. Now this is kind of like, almost like you want to handle this like a pie crust, but we're going to actually put the sugar into the butter first. You're just going to take the back of your spoon and press it in. Not press it, press it. My tongue's tied today. Okay. Now these are a little bit, cannolis are probably one of the nicest Italian pastries you can make. They're a little labor intensive, but not too bad. All right, now we have the butter and the sugar together. So now I want to take all the butter off my back of my spoon. And now I like to sift the flour, the powder, and the salt, okay? So we're going to put this kind of like over here for a minute. We need 1.5 cups of flour, okay? So I'm going to just take my cup first, because if we put this in the sieve without putting it over the butter, it's going to make a mess. So we need 1.5 cups of flour. We need a teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, so I'm just going to take a teaspoon. It's a little heaping. It'll just make it a little puffy. Put it right on top there. And all I need is 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, I'm just going to take that and I'll put that on that side. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to sift these all together. Just like this. When you sift the flour, it lightens it up. It makes it, takes all the lumps out and it lightens it up. See, there's not too many, just 1 lump. Now this is where you're going to treat it like a pie crust. You're going to just work your butter into your flour. Just rub it into your hands like this. Make sure it goes all the way through so that your flour and your butter gets almost like oatmeal, just like a pie crust would. Okay, loosen it all up from the bottom. Make sure you get it up. I'm going to rub this through. Now, when this is all mixed, very short, in a few minutes, I'm going to start adding wine. That's what brings all this together. You don't use ice water or anything like that. You're going to use either a Marsala wine or a white wine or a sparkling wine, but something that you can drink, because if you can't drink it, then you shouldn't be cooking with it. Okay? Now you can see that the butter is all through here. Okay? And it's nice and all broken up through. And it's about 1/2 cup of white wine. But you're going to need to make sure you mix it in, just like you would a pie crust, a little bit at the time. This is a sparkling wine. Okay? Because you don't want to mix it too much, because it'll get tough. So we're just going to incorporate this, and you just keep adding in a little bit of wine till you get your dough together. Okay? I've seen them made with Marsala wine too. That's a sweet wine. Okay, so now I'm better with this hand. And then I'm going to pour the rest of this in there because I think I'm going to need it. So there we go. Now you just want to mix this together. Now when you're done with this dough, okay, it's going to be not too sticky, but a little bit. This is a little bit sticky. But I'm just going to roll it around this flour so that you can make it into a ball. Okay. And then I'm just going to come over here and get my saran wrap. Because what you have to do is you have to wrap this up in saran wrap, and you got to give this a good half an hour chill in the refrigerator because you want the butter and everything to get nice and cold. So we're going to wrap this up just like this. This is going to go into the refrigerator for a half an hour, and we'll be back. All right, while we're waiting for that dough to chill, we're going to start on the filling. Now, if you notice, half of this ricotta is gone because I had to make half of it the day before. Because when you make a ricotta filling like this, unless it's a really, really good Italian ricotta that's real thick, you want to make sure that it sets overnight, because what I do is you put it in a strainer with a little bit of a cheesecloth or a clean cloth, and you let it strain so that all the whey comes out of the ricotta. So I'm actually going to make half a batch right now. Now normally you would use 2 pounds of ricotta with a cup and a half of sifted confectionery sugar, 3/4 of a cup of, I use Cool Whip. You could use a real whipped cream, but the whipped cream deflates after a while. I find the Cool Whip holds up a little better. And then you're going to add some vanilla. So we're going to start out with our ricotta. And then I'm going to take, because I'm doing a half a batch right now, 3/4 of a cup of confectionery sugar. And yeah, I'm going to sift this because I don't want any lumps in my filling. So here's the 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to tap it right into the sifter. Okay? And then we're going to sift this out. Now I'm going to fill this about halfway with the Cool Whip, because you're supposed to use 3/4 of a cup of Cool Whip. Okay, so that's a little bit more than halfway, but that's okay. Cool Whip adds a nice flavor to it. Like I said, you can use a nice, fresh whipped cream if you want to. I just think that it holds better. Now, when you mix this up, a 2-pound ricotta is going to be almost just enough for these shells, what you're going to get. Probably going to get about 3 dozen shells. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla. All right, about I'm supposed to add 2 teaspoons, but I'm going to add 1 because we're doing half a batch because I did the other half before. Okay. Now that's all it is. It's confectionery sugar, it's ricotta, Cool Whip, or whipped cream, whichever one you prefer, and vanilla. Now you're going to see how thin this gets. See, when you put the Cool Whip in and the vanilla and everything and the confectionery sugar and all that, it's going to just get really thin. Okay, now this is the ricotta filling. I'm going to set this aside for now because if you don't like ricotta, or if you're on a diet, or if you want to cut your calories or whatever, what I like to do too, this is another nice thing to do. This is a low-cal version because I use skim milk and I use instant pudding. You could use a sugar-free pudding if you wanted to make it even less calories. I have a cup and a half of milk, okay? I'm going to add 1 package of lemon pudding. It's instant pudding. And I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons, heaping tablespoons of Cool Whip in here. And then I'm just going to whisk it. Now what's going to happen is this is going to get thick, thick, thick. And you want to do this the day before too if you can. It would be the best, the best thing to do is the day before, because then it all has time to set up and get nice and thick. And this makes a good filling. You can use a custard filling, you could use a lemon pudding, you can use a chocolate pudding. They have pistachio pudding. You can do a lot with these cannolis. You don't have to just fill them with ricotta. Okay, so this is going to go in the refrigerator. Now what I want you to do, Carl, is I want you to walk over to the refrigerator with me for a moment, because this is how I set up my ricotta when I drain it. It's in a glass bowl. It's in my strainer. Okay, and there's whey down in the bottom. And you just cover it up with a little bit of plastic, and you put it in here, and it's already starting to get thicker than what it was. So when you let it sit overnight, all the whey comes out, and it will continue to drain, because you'd be surprised how much water and how much whey is in some of this ricotta that you buy in the markets. Like I said, if you get an Italian specialty shop where it's nice and thick and you got a good ricotta, you might not want to strain it. I always do. So this is our ricotta filling and our lemon filling, and when we come back, we'll be frying our cannoli. Now, as you can see, this dough has puffed up nice. Ooh, it's going to be great. Now, what we're going to do is I have a little flour here. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour right there. Now, you don't want to go nuts with the flour, but you don't want the dough to stick to you either. And you want to keep it covered when you're not working with it, okay? Okay, just a little tiny bit on the top, because you don't want it, like I said, you don't want it to stick to you. Now, what I do is I have a little fryer later that I use. I've always used a frying pan, but with my gas stove, I have a hard time doing the cannolis because the gas gets really hot and it's difficult to time it without a thing. So my kids chipped in one Christmas and got me this great little Cuisinart fryer later. I love it. It's awesome. And you also need to find yourself some cannoli tubes. Now I've seen people cut copper pipes. The best thing to do is either go to a specialty shop. I got mine in Boston down in the North End. And go buy yourself a couple of boxes. They come in boxes of 8, okay, and I got a few cannoli tubes. 3 boxes were great, okay? So you need the tubes. You need an egg wash. This is just an egg beaten. I didn't put any water or anything to it. I use this. This is a pasta cutter, but I got this at, I think it was in the North End I got this too. And it just helps you cut the cannoli so that they're all even. My aunt, who I learned how to make cannolis from, Auntie Sunny, Marama, actually used a little ruler. We used to cut ruler 3.5, 3.5 by 3.5. So that's what we usually do. The smaller ones, 2, 2.5, they're very, very small. I like to make them about 3, 3.5, even 4. 4 is a good size cannoli. So where is my cutter? Here we go. So naturally, I'm going to use my pasta roller. Now you want to make the shape of this dough a little bit, you know, rectangle. You don't want it to, you know, you don't want to waste any dough because this is, you know, you took a lot of time to make this dough, so you want to make sure you use it right. You're going to need a little bit of flour, so put a little pile of flour here, okay? And we're going to start this out on 1. There we go. And we're going to start rolling, okay? And then roll it down to 4. Every once in a while, you got to stop to flour it. You don't want it to stick. Okay, now this should be down to 4. Now you want them nice and thin so that they're nice and crispy. Flour them just a little bit. Don't stick. Okay, that's 4. We're going to go down to 4. And there we go. That's our last roll. Okay, so now we have this nice sheet of cannoli dough. We're going to take our little roller. Now, if it's not exactly, you want to just roll. This is how I do it. Like I said, you can do it with a, I'm going to cut this right about here because I'll still use that little piece. And I'll cut this right about here because I'll still fold that over. And I'm just going to pull off these. You can use a knife. You can use the trimmer once you mark off your dough. Put your dough under the bag. You don't want it to stay out. You don't want it in the air at all. You want it to stay nice and covered. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut them. And I'm going to move them out of the way because I don't want to double cut. Okay? This is something you kind of have to take your time with and really think about what you're doing. Don't want to rush through cannolis. And this is why they're a labor of love, because they take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience. But when you get to eat them, they're a whole lot of fun. And I usually do one strip at a time, and I fry because I only have 12 pipes, so I can only do 12 cannolis at a time. So I can do 1 dozen at a time. There we go. Okay, so now what you do is you take your egg wash. I'm going to slide down here a little bit. Okay, use your finger. You can use a brush. Now, the thing with egg wash, this egg, is you don't want it to touch the pipe. If it touches the pipe, then the cannoli is going to stick to the pipe. Okay? So you just want to get one end and roll, and don't let it touch the pipe because it does stick. I've done it, and when you do it, you'll find out that it's not any fun. Because then when you go to take the cannolis off, they tend to break. And they're very delicate when you take them off the pipes, so you have to go very careful. Now, me and my daughter usually fry these together. She usually helps me fry cannolis, and we have a system when we fry, okay? I'm going to dump some of these in. I have the fryer on about 375. They're going to take about 50, 55 seconds. They don't take a long time, okay? Here we go. Now, when they're frying, okay, and you're working with someone, those pipes are intensely hot. So usually I don't let her take the cannolis off the pipes. I take the cannolis off the pipes. And then I stand my cannoli pipes up so that she knows those pipes are hot. If you grab them, you're going to burn. So you have to be careful when you're working with a fryer or when you're doing something like this, because it gets very hot and you don't want anybody to get burned. And especially when you're working with kids or small children, make sure they stay away from the fryer and they stay away from the heat. You don't want them to get burned. Okay, and these are our cannolis. I have a cookie sheet with a paper bag and some paper towels, and I'm going to let those drain on there a little bit, and I'm just going to continue to fry until all my pipes and all my dough is used, and we're going to have all these nice cannoli shells. I'm going to come over here and show you how to take these off real quick. All right, now remember, these pipes are hot. If you need time for them to cool off, you give them time to cool off. Okay? I use a towel because it helps my fingers. And then I stand my pipes up because you know what? Those pipes are hot. And there we go. We have our cannolis. Aren't those wonderful? Oh, they're going to be delicious. Can already tell. This is going to be a little bit deformed, but I'm going to show you what I do. I'm going to show you a different dessert too, which I'm going to fry a couple of these just square. All right, just so you can see. I'm going to do something a little bit different than usual with my cannoli shell. Oh boy. Turning them over is going to be a little bit difficult, but I'll get it done. There we go. I could have let that go another minute. I'm going to continue to cut these into squares. Get a nice, good-sized square. Anything that's a little deformed, I'll show you what I do with it. I love this. It's a very light, crispy dough. And you can layer it like a Napoleon, which is what I like to do, especially like in the summertime. Get fresh berries, and you can use custards or puddings, and you layer them just like a Napoleon. And they're delicious just like that. All right, this one I think can come out. Oh yeah, see? And let that drain. Turn that one over, and of course I want a third layer, so we're gonna drop that little pot in there too. And then while those are going, I'm gonna start some more tubes. just on the very end, and don't get egg on your tube. It's very important. Okay, now I'm going to continue to fry these up and finish all my shells, which with this amount of dough, we should get about 3 dozen. And then when we come back, I'm going to show you how we stuff them and how we eat them. Okay, now there's one other touch I have to do to these cannolis because my daughter loves them dipped in dark chocolate. So now what I did was I bought chocolate that you melt, okay, and I put it in a water bath so that it gets nice and thin, and you can dip your cannolis nice and easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this spoon out because we don't need the spoon in there, okay? And I'm going to take this cannoli, and I'm going to hold on to the end of it, and I'm going to dip it right in there. And then I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to let this chocolate just drip right out of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one side, and then I'll do the other. Now we're going to set this down. I'm going to let that harden a little bit before I do the other side. And then I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to put that in there, and roll this around so that it gets most of it. And then you just let it drip out. She loves these dipped in chocolate, and basically this is what you do. I bought a nice semi-sweet chocolate that you can cook with. Okay. Sometimes I don't even dip the other half. I leave it out like that. So I'm just going to dip a few more of these, and this is basically how you dip your cannolis. Okay, now on the holidays, this is how I present my cannolis, because I do not like to stuff my cannolis until I'm going to eat my cannolis. So I usually put out a dish with all the cannolis around it, chocolate, whatever. These are the pistachio nuts I ground up. These are chocolate, little tiny chocolate morsels. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to take these little ones that I fried. Remember I told you we're going to do something different with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer myself a nice little Napoleon. And I'm going to put a little bit of regatta, like that, and a little bit of nuts, like this. I'm going to do another layer, and I'm going to use some lemon pudding. Now look at how nice and thick this is. This is just pudding. Now when you put these in the cannolis, it's going to be great. And I'm going to just sprinkle a little chocolate on there too. Oh, that's going to be delicious. And then we're going to put this on top, and we're going to take a little bit of whipped cream, like that. And this is from when I put my chocolate in the freezer for my cannoli. See? Excellent. A little bit of chocolate all the way around. Now you can use fresh fruit on these too, which is really, really good. Now when we stuff our cannolis, we just I leave it in the bowl. You can use a pastry tube if you want, but I've always stuffed them just like this. Just take your regatta and put them right inside, like this. Pack it in there, okay? And then you're gonna wanna turn it over. You can see it starting to come out on this side, and just pack it in like that. Now at this point, you can, number one, you can dip it in your chocolate, get a nice little chocolate end, or dip it in your pistachios and get a nice little pistachio end. And just to show you how flexible these are, I'm going to take a chocolate dipped one. Boy, there's still a lot of chocolate on this one. And I'm going to fill it with the lemon filling. And the same rule applies. You just pop it right in there. And this really does make a very, very good filling. Make sure they're stuffed good. And these are our cannolis. And they are delicious. Ready?
So am I going to get to try these?
Yes, you do.
Let me try one.
Like that? I want to try this too. You want to try this too?
It's very clear.
Oh.
Our love is here to stay. Not for a year. Maybe a couple of days.
Here, try the lemon. Oh, is that good?
There you go.
See, they're not just cannolis. You can do a lot with cannoli shells.
In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay. But these cannolis are here to stay.
Oh, it's rude to talk with your mouth full.
I know it. Why don't you sign off so we can shut off the camera?
Oh, okay. I'm so into my cannolis. Thank you for watching Tina Cooks More Italian. Have a good night. Okay, now when I do cannolis, I like to have different toppings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grind up some pistachio nuts because I like to put them on the ends of my cookies. On my cannolis. So I'm going to put these over here like this, drop them in. I don't want to get too many, I don't want shells, so we're going to make sure we don't get any shells. Okay? And Adam, you better not even be in that cannoli stuff yet. And drop my cannolis and Carl, Adam, he's eating cannolis. He's eating cannolis already, Carl. We're not ready yet. He's eating them. You never have anything nice. Okay. How are they, Adam? I can tell you're in my cannolis, Adam. I'll take a bite. How's the feeling? Good? Good.